You'd think that towards the end of 2023, that Big Finish would, slow down a little bit, because Doctor Who is being broadcast on TV, so they think, but fans are going to be watching those specials, they're not going to have too much time to listen to all of our audio dramas. But oh my god, for the love of stories, we've got the 8th Doctor adventures here, we've got the end of the Ood trilogy, we've got a War Doctor Begins set, we've got the 11th Doctor, Rani Takes on the World, the Short Trips competition winner, the last days of the 7th Doctor Part 1, so much stuff this Christmas. But however, only 2 of these are actual Christmas specials. We've got a Christmas episode in the 11th Doctor Chronicles, but we've got a full festive themed box set here with the 8th Doctor adventures in the bleak Midwinter. This follows on from the events of the 8th Doctor Adventures Audacity, where we met Lady Audacity Montague, played by Jay Griffiths. Minor spoilers for the ending of that box set, but it turns out that we're meeting the 8th Doctor during his adventures with Charlie Pollard, played by India Fisher, and they went to pick her up at the end, and they decided to get into the festive season. So we have 3 back-to-back stories, all centred around the happiest time of the year. We've got 24 Doors in December by John Dorney, The Empty Man by Tim Foley, and Winter of the Demon by Roy Gill. These are 3-hour-long stories, all centred around Christmas, starring Paul McGann as the 8th Doctor, with India Fisher and Jay Griffiths as new companions India and Audacity, respectively. It's a really cool TARDIS pairing. I think that Charlie and Audacity have great chemistry with each other. They've got a great dynamic back and forth, because you've got the sort of the straight-talking youngster who has been travelling with the Doctor for a while, and then you've got this kind of Victorian aristocrat who is this sort of robber baron as well, this sort of badass character out of her time, but actually from her time, and the dynamic between them and the 8th Doctor is really, really impressive. So let's talk about 24 Doors in December by John Dorney, because this one actually has Santa in it. Not really Santa, it's a mall Santa, it's a shopping centre Santa, played by Jason Watkins of all people. What a hell of a get in terms of the actual cast. So, Jason Watkins plays a department store Santa called Al, who is kind of down on his luck. Al is hearing a ghostly choir anywhere that he goes, and is kind of haunted by this weird child who appears at one of his sessions as well. We've also got Isabel, played by Natalie Gomede, who is the elf assistant as well. And the Doctor, Audacity, and Charlie are trying to help him out in this interesting framing device where it opens with the Doctor introducing Audacity to the concept of an advent calendar, the 24 Doors of Christmas, 24 Doors in December, and each story is given a name. Each scene is given a number and a title, all leading up to 24, the final days of the Advent calendar, and the double doors. I bet you can't guess what the double doors are going to be in a Doctor Who Advent calendar. You get a shilling if you get it right. That's my little prize to you there. So it's a really interesting framing device, but it is, of course, super festive themed. Let's play a clip from 24 Doors in December.
Let every heart prepare him room. In heaven and nature sing. In heaven and nature sing. In heaven and nature.
Well, don't stop on my account. I was rather enjoying the singing.
Oh, I'd rather not. That would feel awfully like showing off.
If you have the voice for it, then you absolutely should show it off. And you do have the voice.
Thank you.
At least I am familiar with this tune. In the last 2 days, I have heard such an unusual collection of carols. The words make little sense. For example, who in their right wits would truly wish for it to be Christmas every day? The cost alone would surely be prohibitive, and I would say a great deal of the holiday's appeal lies in its novelty. I do not believe these wizards have truly thought through the idea. What are you doing?
I'm attempting a Christmas pudding. You can make a wish as you stir, you know. Would you like to?
But of course.
You go from east to west to celebrate the journey of the Magi.
But east to west clockwise or east to west anti-clockwise? I'm not certain these instructions are entirely clear.
Whichever takes your fancy. It's all superstition anyhow. The important thing is the pudding. Christmas wouldn't be Christmas without a...
Without what?
The pudding, I think. You know, I'm not entirely sure why I said that.
Whenever I listen to these Big Finish audio dramas, I think, what's the clip I'm going to use in the live streams? And the moment I heard the Chimes of Midnight reference, I was like, that's the clip. That's the one that the listeners and the viewers are going to appreciate here. So 24 Doors in December is this really lovely, like very low stakes, character-driven drama that takes place linearly as the Doctor, Audacity and Charlie are on Baker Street in London, because the Doctor has a home away from home in Baker Street. You can see the 107 on the cover, that's his home in Baker Street, where he spends a lot of time in Stranded. It's this really lovely character-driven drama where we follow this down-on-his-luck Santa, played brilliantly by Jason Watkins, who's trying to overcome these demons, these ghosts, and this sort of ambiguous past that he's got. And it's just this really lovely story about coming together for the holiday season to just help one person, where the Doctor, Audacity and Charlotte and Isabel and others just see this down-on-his-luck guy who's trying to do better but has so many like mental blocks to self-improvement, and they just kind of drop everything that they're doing and just say, we want to help this guy. The ticking clock for the story is that they're hosting this Santa's Grotto, this children's hospital get-together in Baker Street a couple of days before Christmas, and they want to try and get a Santa and an elf there, and they meet a guy called Santa Nicholas, who is the head of this grotto, this private grotto hire organization, who's very in character as Santa, played brilliantly by David Hall, and Al and Isabel end up being assigned to the job, and they just immediately clock that something is wrong with Al, who looks at Charlotte and looks at Audacity in horror, and they think, okay, we need to help this guy. It's a really lovely story, and it's probably honestly my favourite of the box set because it is so unambiguously festive. It's so unambiguously heartwarming and lovely, and honestly, I can see this being a recurring Big Finish listen every single Christmas, or at least in the run-up to Christmas. The formatting is great. I think that the Advent calendar format is really inspired and really well done. Paul McGann is great here as well, but honestly, Jason Watkins is the guy who carries it. People asking if he's better here than in Nightmare in Silver. It's tough to compare because it's a very different role, but Jason Watkins is just such a great actor. He's just such a great presence, and he's just a very likable guy. I had no idea going into this that this was Jason Watkins. He kind of disappears into this really humble role for a humble Big Finish Doctor Who box set, and he's so good in this. This is such a good story. This is a really good one. I highly recommend the first one, 24 Doors in December. John Dorney's done a really great job here. Now, if you want something a little bit more spooky, a little bit more scary, we have The Empty Man by Tim Foley. And honestly, there have been so many great 8th Doctor stories this year, but Tim Foley has been on an absolute roll this year. Banger after banger after banger. And it pains me to say that The Empty Man is another banger by Tim Foley. How does he keep doing this, man? He's got to be human, right? He's got to be. Anyway, The Empty Man follows the Doctor and Charlie and Audacity in 1940s England. They have been brought back to Christmas again, where Eldridge Brinkwood, played by Nicholas Grace, is this horror narrator on the radio. He reads ghost stories along the airwaves, and just as he's finishing up his Christmas special, this weird, empty, ghostly, spectrally presence goes into the radio station and has taken on his likeness and is trying to consume him and track him down and follow him. Basically, think of The Empty Man as a Christmas, more family-friendly version of It Follows, except it's not trash, it's not terrible. And the Doctor, Charlotte and Audacity pick him up in a ye olde motor car and take him away, and they introduce themselves. Let's play a clip from The Empty Man.
Right. We'll drive around a bit, then double back to the TARDIS. Charlie, Audacity, this is Eldridge Brinkwood. And I didn't introduce myself earlier, did I? I'm the Doctor.
I've no wish to become acquainted with any of you. I just require some answers.
Believe us, Mr. Brinkwood, so do we.
What were you doing at the radio station? Are you the caretaker?
You've kidnapped me and you don't even know who I am.
We haven't kidnapped you, we've rescued you.
And when all this is over, I shall drop you right outside your front door.
I'm not giving you my address.
Sure. Invite us in for eggnog.
I want to know why that disturbing individual who seems to shake the air around him was pursuing us. Pursuing me. Dressed as me. Disguised as me.
We will tell you what we know if you do likewise.
At least tell us who you are first.
I spied the Radio Chronicle on a seat back there before you bundled me inside.
Audacity, you sitting on my magazine?
Oh, forgive me for not prioritizing the preservation of your journal. Charlie, you may flatten out the creases.
Are you in here then, Eldridge? If we turn to today's date, Christmas Eve, I presume if you were on a show it was going out live, and the time's just gone. Oh, there you are. In the title, no less. Eldridge Brinkwood's Haunted Delights.
Pardon?
You tell ghost stories on the radio. I love that sort of thing.
So, as is to be expected with the subject matter, The Empty Man is a pretty spooky listen. Some really great atmosphere, some great sound design. Benji Clifford, who did the last 8th Doctor box set, does incredible work in this one as well, just with less Cybermen. But Eldridge Brinkwood is a really fascinating character for a time travel show as well, because one big part of the story is that the Doctor hasn't heard of him. And it makes you wonder whether or not there's some weird time travel-y stuff going on, or maybe the sort of meta element of him doing radio broadcasts in the 1940s, that he broadcasts them once and then they just go out into the ether and then nobody hears them again. What he could be doing is just lost media, or like destroyed media, or they burn the tapes in the 1960s or the 70s or whatever. Some really cool metatextual stuff there about legacy and what it means to like be remembered and things like that. But The Empty Man is this very leisurely pursuit over the course of Christmas with a very limited cast. There's no other actors other than the Doctor, Charlie, Audacity, and Eldridge as they make their way across the wintry tundra, trying to escape this empty figure, this thing that has no eyes, the thing that is just stalking them silently and is able to intercept the radio waves and the telephone. And if you think, oh, that sounds very similar to The Empty Child, I'm not sure if that's a coincidence or some sort of deliberate inspiration there, but there is definitely some inspiration here from The Empty Child. Like I said, it's like The Empty Child meets It Follows at Christmas, except it's not shit. But for The Empty Man, I think that Tim Foley did a really great job at endearing us to this crotchety old character. Nicholas Grace does a great job as Eldridge. He really helps to carry the story. He's done a really great job at sort of humanizing this character over such a truncated time span. Yeah, I think that The Empty Man is a really great, like almost Dickensian sort of ghost drama. And there is even a reference, of course, to the Signalman, like Charles Dickens is the Signalman, which the 8th Doctor is, of course, a big fan of. You know, that I like that sort of subtle continuity between Doctors, where the 9th Doctor loves the Signalman and then becomes a big fanboy over Charles Dickens, stuff like that. Some really lovely stuff. But what's really great about this is Audacity's characterization. And unfortunately, it does get sort of dropped over the course of the box set, but the idea that they're in 1940s England, they are in the Second World War, and Audacity is a character from, like, Victorian England. So it's like, wait, not only is there a world war, but this is the second one as well, and how Charlie and the Doctor are able to just take that in stride. And it really recontextualizes Audacity's adventures with the Doctor, where she kind of is worried that she'll end up losing her empathy, losing her humanity over the course of these journeys. And it's really interesting, and I think it's so well portrayed by Jay Griffiths, who does an amazing job in this story. And how Charlie doesn't really have an answer for her and sort of has to reconsider her own life with the Doctor in this context. Unfortunately, the third story, Winter of the Demon by Roy Gill, doesn't really pick up on this thread, but maybe this will happen in future adventures between the Doctor, Audacity, and Charlie. Maybe that thread gets picked up later, but the way that it's woven into the story of The Empty Man is done really, really well. The cast are terrific as well. Now, that brings us to the last one, Winter of the Demon. It's early 20th century Edinburgh. We're in the midst of the Industrial Revolution as well, and we've got Donald Shaw, who is played by David Robb, who is hoping to do a great big festive Christmas light switch on in Edinburgh. However, the power plant, there's no train tracks leading up to it. There's no way to burn fuel. There's nothing there in order to generate the power. Where is the heat? Where is the electricity coming from? Also, why have there been so many people who have died in Edinburgh recently with burn marks and scorch marks as if they've been electrocuted, but there's no markings on their hands? We do have Audacity and Charlie, who are able to infiltrate the upper echelons of Edinburgh society. We've got Captain Archie McLennan, played by John Scoundrel as well, who does a great job adapting to this makeshift TARDIS team as well. But the Doctor is doing his own investigating. Let's play a clip from Winter of the Demon.
Excuse me, what are you doing here?
Examining. Best thing to do in a pathology lab.
The door was locked.
Not to me. This must be the late Joe Cogill, the fellow brought in last night.
All inquiries must be addressed through proper channels. We've had enough, gentlemen of the press.
Do I look like a reporter?
Judging by your apparel, a theatrical critic?
I don't do reviews. I'm the doctor.
You're from the university. One of Dr. Bell's coterie.
Dear Joseph, now there's a man with a forensic mind. I said as much to Arthur.
Irrelevant. Why does this case interest the Bell set?
Cause of death, misadventure due to contact with electrical charge.
You disagree?
The burns are extensive, but more what I'd associate with intense heat. With electrocution, you'd expect marks at the point of contact, but the worst damage occurs subdermally.
You seem remarkably well informed about this newfangled hazard.
Not a fan.
I wouldn't have it in the house. These cases do not persuade me otherwise.
What did you make of his hands? One clasped, the other outstretched, as if warding something off.
You don't suspect the demon?
Judging by his expression, he was terrified.
Of his imminent electrocution. I'd imagine hellish beasts are the domain of the penny dreadfuls.
Tell me, where was the body found?
In a tunnel beneath Carlton Hill. He was installing cabling.
Perhaps he disturbed something. Something best left alone.
Now, Winter of the Demon is a story that I really, really liked for the first half of it. I think that the cast are really strong. There's a great premise, great setting, and you even heard from that clip there, there's some brilliant dialogue as well. I wish I could have found a non-spoilery clip with Captain Archie McLennan, like I said, played by John Scowgill, who's just this really lovely, cute captain of the guard who's there in Edinburgh and has a cute little romance with Charlie. It's very, very lovely, and it's lovely to see unfold. Unfortunately, we get halfway through the story, and then the A-plot seems to come to an end, and then they realise, wait, we've got another half hour left, we have to ramp everything back up again, and then deliver a second half of the story. And it's that second half of the story that Winter of the Demon kind of loses all momentum and all of its, energy. It's pretty frustrating. The cast are great. You've got Maggie Mackenzie, who's this archaeologist, played by Lucy Goldie, who's found this ancient lioness sculpture, buried in Edinburgh, and this is somehow the key to Donald Shaw's plans for industrialization in Edinburgh. But honestly, all of this kind of gets resolved for the first half of the story. All of the mysteries are revealed for the most part, with the exception of a couple of loose ends and a couple of loose threads. But then it just carries on for a second half of it. I might need to give this one another listen. But outside of the dialogue and the characters itself, it was the plot that let it down. It was the structure that let it down. The characters were great, the dialogue was lovely. Roy Gill is great at this sort of stuff. This seems like a tailor-made plot for him. The guy is an incredibly versatile writer, particularly when it comes to his historicals. And I thought that the Edinburgh setting was really well utilised, but honestly, it just sort of fell apart in the second half. It's half a great story, but then when it realises we've got half an hour left, it lost all of its lustre. It's a bit disappointing, to be honest. And it also means that because it is the last half of the last story, it means that in the Bleak Midwinter, ironically sort of fizzles out. For the first 2.5 hours of this box set, you've got this brilliant, comforting, raging, roaring fire. And then for the last half hours, you've got these weird embers that just, it's not giving off much heat. It's not giving off much energy, which is kind of ironic considering the cause of death in the stories in Winter of the Demon and how much fire plays a role into this. It's a little bit disappointing, as well as the fact that, like I said, the character beats that are picked up with Audacity and Charlie and the Empty Man don't really get paid off here. Not that I'm expecting them to, but, you don't even have that to sort of, push you along in terms of thematic weight and thematic heft and characterization in Winter of the Demon. It was a bit of a weak story overall. Like I said, great first half, but then the second half, it's it hurts the pacing because it builds to a natural climax 30 minutes in, and then it has to chill for a bit, and then it has to sort of ramp back up again, and that's difficult to do in 2 half-hour blocks. It became a victim of its own structure. But I will say though, despite that, in the Bleak Midwinter, is still a really, really good box set that I do still recommend picking up. Like I said, the first half of Winter of the Demon is great, and there is some really good stuff there with Audacity, who is getting to know the sort of upper echelons of Edinburgh society because she knows how to adapt, she knows how to blend into these settings, and she's able to do a Sherlock Holmes deduction of this person who she's only just met. Some really good stuff there. The cast are great. The Eighth Doctor, Paul McGann, is thriving in this setting, and this sort of weird mystical beast that he has to tame over the course of the story that even the TARDIS translation circuits can't translate the language and the dialogue from. Some really cool out there stuff, but it just sort of peters out towards the end. But 24 Doors in December is a wonderful Christmas annual rotation story for years to come, up there with Chimes of Midnight and Christmas Invasion, and also Auld Lang Syne, the Ninth Doctor New Year's Day, New Year's Eve story. And The Empty Man is just as good, with really heavy and weighty themes on legacy and memory, with a really great central performance in both of these as well. The guest stars in all of them, even in Winter of the Demon, which I didn't really like overall, even the terrific guest stars overall in this entire box set. It's a really well assembled box set. I just wish it didn't peter out the way it did, but still. Terrific Christmas festive listening, as the nights draw in colder, as they draw in earlier, and we all have to get under our blankets and by the roaring fire. This is going to be a box set that I can see myself cracking out year in, year out. I think the Big Finish have done a really great job with this Christmas box set. Really good stuff here.